It is Thursday, October 6th, and this is a Fox News alert. Bracing for impact, monster Hurricane Matthew roaring towards the U.S. right now after blasting the Bahamas and demolishing Haiti. Millions of Americans now desperate to escape its deadly path and what could be the biggest mass evacuation ever. We have live team coverage.
And top secrets stolen. An NSA contractor now under arrest for stealing highly classified government information.
It's a good one. He was phenomenal. He was cool. He was smart. He was, you just take a look at him.
And Donald Trump hot on the trail, praising Mike Pence as Hillary Clinton whips out her new secret weapon to woo millennials. Al Gore? Fox and Friends First starts right now.
Yeah, lots of people with their eye to the sky and the eye of Hurricane Matthew specifically. Good morning. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Heather Childers.
Good morning. I'm Abby Huntsman. Thanks for starting your day with us. And that is where we begin with this Fox News alert. Bracing for impact, millions of Americans now preparing for what could be the most devastating hurricane to hit the East Coast in more than a decade.
Right now, monster Hurricane Matthew strengthening over open water, battering the Bahamas, spinning toward Florida, packing winds well over 100 miles an hour.
Millions of Americans now in a race against time in what could be the biggest mass evacuation ever. The storm expected to reach Florida late tonight or early tomorrow.
And now the unbelievable possibility, listen to this, that Matthew could spin around and then hit the U.S. twice.
We have live Fox News team coverage for you this morning.
We begin with Janice Dean. She's tracking the new path, and she's in the Weather Center for us with more. Janice, really twice?
Well, don't get ahead of ourselves first. We'll concentrate on the next 24 to 48 hours, and then beyond that, we'll have to see. There is a possibility of this storm looping around, but let's talk about the fact that we have a strengthening storm. 5 a.m. advisory has come out. The winds are up. The pressure is dropping. We see an eye now right there popping out, and that is an indication that we have a strengthening storm, and, we're expecting impact, perhaps devastating impacts for the Bahamas. Hurricane warnings in effect all up and down the East Coast now for Florida. You need to be completing your preparations, and if you have not evacuated, prayers at this point. You need to listen to your local officials, and if you haven't evacuated in areas, you're running out of time. We really, truly only have about 12 hours before this thing rakes its way up the coast. So the hurricane warnings are in effect. We're going to start to see the conditions go downhill throughout the day today and in through the overnight, and we're going to watch this thing not only affect Florida, but Georgia and the Carolinas. So there's Thursday night. The eye wall coming very close to West Palm Beach, and then we don't know if it's going to make a landfall yet, but coming so close as a major hurricane. They have not had a major hurricane in Florida hit the shores in a decade. So this is a big deal. A lot of these folks maybe have never experienced a hurricane. And then what happens Friday, we're still dealing with this eye wall all up towards Georgia and the Carolinas. Forecast wind gusts, all right. We could see hurricane force winds for a duration of hours upon hours scraping the Space Coast here. So there's Daytona Beach. This is Friday morning, and we're going to be dealing with a Category 3, Category 4 hurricane that maybe doesn't even make landfall, but perhaps, this could be a devastating blow for this vulnerable coastline up towards Georgia, and then we're going to have to see what happens after that. Here's the forecast path. Again, this is the 5 a.m. advisory just in. It has not changed much, and the timing is still key. But look at this. This is 145 miles per hour, just kissing the coastline here. There's Friday evening, not moving too fast. So this is a big concern. We're going to see, beach erosion, storm surge, flooding, upwards of a foot of rainfall, hurricane force winds, and then we'll have to watch and see what happens, because there is the possibility that this actually could make a loop and then perhaps impact the coast again heading into next week. So, we're hoping that we're done with this, but we have to watch every single track over the next couple of days. Prayers for Florida. Listen to your local officials this morning, ladies. Back to you.
Wow, that's absolutely right. Better safe than sorry. Janice Dean live for us in the Weather Center. Janice, thank you. And we now turn to Brian Yanis live in Sebastian Inlet, Florida, where people are preparing for the worst today. Brian, what is the latest where you are?
Good morning, Abby and Heather. This could be Florida's biggest evacuation ever. Some 1.5 million Floridians are being urged to evacuate along the entire east coast of the state as they brace for Hurricane Matthew, a major Category 4 storm expected to hit tonight into overnight into tomorrow. From the Palm Beaches through the Space Coast to the top of Jacksonville, Florida, people living in low-lying areas, barrier islands, and mobile homes are under mandatory evacuations. It's not just Florida either. Governor Nikki Haley ordering the evacuation of some 1 million people along the coastal areas all along South Carolina, like Charleston. The evacuation causing bumper-to-bumper traffic along I-26. Hurricane Matthew expected to hit there Saturday. Back here in Florida, people are making their last-minute preparations, boarding up their homes and buying bread, water, and flashlights before conditions start to deteriorate later today and this afternoon. Governor Rick Scott reiterating this storm is life-threatening, and it's the biggest this area has seen in at least a decade.
Regardless if there's a direct hit or not, the impacts will be devastating. I cannot emphasize it enough that everyone in our state must prepare now for a direct hit.
Hurricane Matthew has already killed at least 25 people in Haiti and eastern Cuba. Mudslides and flooding, just adding another devastating blow to the poorest country in our hemisphere. As for me, I am along the beach here in Sebastian. It is under a mandatory evacuation beginning at 8 a.m. Storm surge is always the biggest threat with hurricanes. A 4 to 6 foot storm surge expected along this area. People being urged to leave this area along the barrier islands because emergency vehicles cannot get to you. Once those winds start hitting that 39-mile-an-hour tropical wind area, you are on your own. So a mandatory evacuation for this beach and along this area beginning at 8 a.m. today. Abby? Heather?
All right. Brian Yanis live for us there in Florida. Wow, you can already see those winds picking up.
Yeah, and the images, the radar images, really terrifying.
Stay safe, Brian.
Thank you. Well, now we're going to go to another Fox News alert for you now. ISIS calling on jihadis around the world to carry out knife massacres in our own backyards. A newly released propaganda magazine provides a manual for murder published in several different languages. Now, it urges jihadis to attack in alleys, along beaches, and the most chilling location of all, inside quiet neighborhoods. Well, the terrorist even praised the Minnesota mall slasher by name, assuring others that they don't need combat experience to terrorize nations.
It's frightening. Well, a decorated police sergeant murdered in cold blood 53-year-old Stephen Owen. You can see him there, shot in the face while responding to a burglary in Los Angeles in a suburb there. The gunman, identified as a parolee, then tried to get away in Owen's own patrol car after opening fire on the father of two. Other deputies chased him to a nearby his home where he barricaded himself inside. He was ambushed and arrested after a 2-hour standoff.
And now to the race for the White House. Donald Trump hot on the trail, bound for the battleground state of New Hampshire. The GOP nominee taking a victory lap, praising his running mate for his debate performance and slamming Hillary Clinton along the way. Doug McKelway is live for us in Washington, D.C. with the very latest from the campaigns. Good morning, Doug.
Morning, Heather. The big question heading into Sunday's debate, did Donald Trump learn anything from his running mate's performance Tuesday night in Farmville, Virginia? Mike Pence is widely seen as winning the VP debate, if only by calmly fending off and deflecting Tim Kaine's rapid-fire attacks. Pence's humility also evident in a post-debate victory lap yesterday in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
I think Donald Trump won the debate. I think Donald Trump's vision to make America great again won the debate. I really think that vision for a stronger America at home and abroad, if we did any good last night, it was that we were able to communicate that vision and the clear choice the American people face.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidates continue to take opposing tacks to prepare for Sunday night's second presidential debate. Hillary Clinton taking time off from the trail to study briefing books at her Washington home, confident that the preparation which carried her through the first debate will work again. But Trump has a new line of attack which he will undoubtedly unleash on Sunday.
Bill Clinton torched President Obama's signature legislation. Hillary Clinton called Obamacare one of the greatest accomplishments of President Obama. Bill had a different view. He said, it's just a crazy system.
So look for that Sunday. Hillary also has a new campaign weapon, or perhaps an old one. Al Gore. He's going to be campaigning, bearing the hatchet over past differences, campaigning for Hillary Clinton now in the home stretch. Heather, Abby, back to you.
Bringing out all the big guns.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. Well, top Republicans putting the FBI on blast for destroying evidence in Hillary Clinton's email investigation. Those lawmakers now demanding some answers from Attorney General Loretta Lynch after learning that the feds destroyed laptops belonging to Clinton aides. In a letter, they say, quote, it's simply astonishing given the likelihood that evidence on the laptops would be of interest to congressional investigators. The computers were destroyed as part of an immunity deal. It's still unclear if they were physically smashed or just wiped clean.
Well, the IRS exposed for targeting Tea Party groups again, 3 years after admitting that it had crossed the line. The ongoing legal battle heating up after a conservative group says that the department published their private tax return information. The group says that they're still being ruthlessly questioned 4 years after they first requested tax-exempt status. More than 400 groups are suing the IRS for its one-sided scrutiny.
Listen to this. We are one step closer to another space milestone.
2, 1.
For the first time ever, a private rocket company safely completing an emergency evacuation drill on a shuttle. The system saves passengers in the event of a mid-flight emergency. It is the first successful test since NASA's back in the 1960s.
How cool is that? Blue Origin, owned by Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos, plans to launch crew test flights next year. Paying passengers are also expected to fly by 2018.
Would you pay
that?
to do that? I would pay for it.
No, I would be too scared.
After it's tested a couple
My husband, though, would love that.
Well, the time now is 10 minutes after the top of the hour, and Samsung has some more explaining to do. One of its replacement Galaxy phones just went up in flames on a plane.
Oh, boy. And a new twist in the Kim Kardashian robbery. Bombshell information about her bodyguard, fueling speculation that this was an inside job.
And sticker shock, the hospital that just billed new parents $40 to hold their new baby. You have to hear this. Welcome back to Fox and Friends Thursday. Fox News alert for you right now. An NSA contractor arrested for stealing government secrets. And believe it or not, we're not talking about Edward Snowden. Jackie Ibanez here now with the bombshell arrest that the FBI tried to keep secret. Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning, Heather. Heavily armed FBI agents storming the Maryland home of Harold Martin, where they allegedly found secret U.S. codes stashed on hard drives in his home and his car. The August raid uncovering the codes which are used by the NSA to break into servers owned by nations like Iran, Russia, North Korea, and China. These circumstances similar to NSA hacker Edward Snowden, who worked for the same security consulting firm as Martin. Snowden is still hiding out in Russia after leaking classified information on U.S. surveillance programs to the press back in 2013. The White House forced to react to possibly another embarrassing security breach.
I think any time that information like this is released in the context of a criminal complaint, the federal government is reminded of how important it is to be vigilant. So this is certainly a situation that the Department of Justice takes seriously.
Now, Snowden is reacting to the arrest, tweeting, "This is huge. Did the FBI secretly arrest the person behind the reports NSA sat on huge flaws in U.S. products?" The FBI says so far there is no evidence Martin passed anything on to a third party, and his lawyers maintain he has no intentions of betraying his country. Abby?
All right, Jackie Ibanez, thanks for that report this morning. Also breaking this morning, a worldwide recall of exploding phones and the replacement that took weeks to get up went up in flames on a packed plane. A man says his brand new Galaxy 7 ignited right before takeoff. The cabin of a Southwest flight filling with smoke, forcing everyone on board to evacuate onto a runway in Kentucky. Samsung recalled 1 million of its Note 7 smartphones, offering a replacement that it said was safer, but it seems that is not the case.
I heard a popping sound. I was kind of looking around to see what was going on, and I saw that smoke was just pouring out of my pocket. I pulled it out, then threw it onto the ground.
Samsung now saying it needs to investigate the replacement phone to determine what caused the fire before issuing another recall. And Uber's self-driving program is already hitting a major roadblock. A horrified Uber driver posting this video of a driverless car going the wrong way. The ride-share company rolling out a pilot project in Pittsburgh last month. They're already being slammed with complaints for ignoring traffic signals and causing crashes. Uber now denying serious safety concerns, saying there's a driver in every car who can step in if need be. It sounds like they might need them, Heather.
Yes, maybe they should have thought of that. How does it know if it's a one-way street? Well, we have some bombshell new information about Kim Kardashian's personal bodyguard. We just learned that Pascal Duvier filed for bankruptcy for his security company just 10 weeks ago with millions of dollars in debt. This as suspicion grows over whether the $11 million robbery was an inside job. Now, Duvier was already facing criticism for leaving the reality star alone in her Paris apartment. Kardashian says that she was bound and gagged by 5 masked men before they stole millions in jewelry. French police now on the hunt for a blacked out limo spotted outside Kardashian's apartment just minutes before the heist. The police also blaming the star's social media presence, saying that it made her an easy target.
Really fishy.
Yeah, she posted a picture of a very big diamond ring.
Yeah.
And said, I have it and it's here.
Not the end of that story, I have a feeling. All right, the time is now almost 20 minutes after the hour. Donald Trump promising to hit Hillary Clinton at the next debate.
I may hit her harder in certain ways. I really eased up because I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But so I may hit her harder in certain ways.
Well, with just 3 days to go until the second face-off, what can we expect? Our political panel is on deck next.
And a new passenger policy sparking some outrage on board a plane. How would you feel about getting weighed before your next flight? We'll tell you who's doing it.
Donald Trump has built a business through hard times and through good times. There's a reason why people question the trustworthiness of Hillary Clinton, and that's because they're paying attention. We can get America moving again.
We trust Hillary Clinton as President and Commander-in-Chief. She has been focused on serving others with a special focus on empowering families and kids. Sharp contrast with Donald Trump. Donald Trump always puts himself first.
Well, 33 days until the election, and the second presidential debate is just 3 days out. So which VP nominee did a better job this week setting up their running mate for the Sunday night showdown in St. Louis? Here to weigh in, Democratic strategist Danielle McLaughlin and New York City GOP Councilman Joe Borelli. Thank you both for joining us so early this morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Heather. Joe, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think did a better job?
Well, I think it's not just me who thinks that. I think it's most of the media and most of the American public who think that Governor Pence did an outstanding job. He came off as on message, on point, talking about the broader issues that matter to the American public. And Senator McCain came off as unhinged. He came off, in my opinion, as like a dinner guest you wouldn't want to invite back.
Oh, ouch. Well, that depends on what you're serving for dessert,
right.
Though, I think. All right, Danielle, what do you think? Who do you think did a better job actually setting up their candidate come Sunday?
Well, I think Pence had a tougher road to hoe because Trump didn't do so well in the first presidential debate. And I agree, he did a good job. He was kind of on message, although there was definitely some daylight between his positions and Donald Trump's positions. He looked at the camera, so from a stylistic perspective, from someone who's looking at this, who's an independent, who's a moderate Republican, thinking this guy could be president, I think he did a good job. But on substance, I think that Senator Kaine did a better job. He hewed very closely to the very well-established policy positions of the Clinton campaign.
Yeah, but he also veered way off at times, continually maybe hitting some talking points that he had been told, you need to stress this. Listen to what he had to say about Donald Trump's taxes and 9/11. A lot of people have talked about this.
Well, first and foremost, Donald Trump supports our troops. Donald Trump supports our veterans.
He won't pay taxes.
Donald Trump has paid all the taxes that he's... Do you not take deductions?
Gentlemen, this
How
is
does that work?
about Syria. I'd like to ask the
honestly, Senator,
it is about our troops.
I understand why you want to change it. I understand why you want to change the subject. I understand why you want to change the subject.
So the question was about Syria and foreign policy, and Kane ventures into, Donald Trump's tax issues. So, Danielle was saying perhaps Pence didn't hit enough on the issues, but Joe, I mean, it's difficult when you're all over the place like that.
Right, and this is what people found off-putting about Tim Kaine's performance, is that, I understand. Look, if I was Tim Kaine, I wouldn't want to talk about how ISIS has expanded and grown under the Obama-Clinton presidency, and how they're now able to project themselves around their territory. And so I understand why he just threw out the tax comment just to be interrupting and that sort of thing. I just don't think it was a good move for him long term.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at this. Trump is promising to hit Hillary Clinton harder. So what can we expect for round two? Let's take a look at this Fox News poll first before I get to you, Danielle. Clinton at 43%, Trump at 40%. And this was the bump immediately following the first debate. So the question is, what kind of bump will they get following the VP debate, and how will they handle it this time around? What do you think?
We'll see whether the VP debate moves the needle at all. I'm not sure that either VP candidate did enough to really move the needle for their candidates. I think in terms of hitting Clinton hard, I think Trump has to be very, very careful. A town hall environment is very different than standing on a podium just with a moderator. This is a very intimate and personal conversation with voters. He has to be careful about what he says about Clinton and her marriage, and he really has to answer the question. So there won't be pivots to talking points and polls and popularity and greatness. He really has to answer questions, so I think he has a bit of a challenge ahead of him.
Yeah, we'll see if he can do that. And Joe, finally from you?
Yeah, I think the format works two ways. I mean, we saw the Clinton-Kane strategy to pivot away from issues and talk about ad hominem attacks on Donald Trump. That's not going to work when you have the member of the public, an audience member, asking the questions. You can't simply just say Trump's taxes when the question's about Hillary Clinton's foundation. Tim Kaine got questioned on the foundation. It was the second question of the debate, and he gave a meandering answer that ended up in race relations. You're not going to be able to do that if you're Hillary Clinton when you're being asked by the audience.
We will see. We'll see what happens. 33 days to go. Hard to believe. Thank you, Joe Borelli and Danielle McLaughlin. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. All right, the time is now 27 after the hour. An alarming threat to freedom of speech where journalists are now being told not to reveal when terrorists are Muslim. Stick with us.
It is Thursday, October 6th, and this is a Fox News alert bracing for impact. Monster Hurricane Matthew roaring towards the U.S. right now after blasting the Bahamas and demolishing Haiti. Millions of Americans now desperate to escape its deadly path in what could be the largest mass evacuation ever. We have live team coverage.
And a bombshell from the Department of Justice. Why a case that would have exposed Hillary Clinton and President Obama's role in arming extremists was just dropped.
And the bold move that the largest shopping mall in America is making this Thanksgiving Day. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Abby Huntsman.
A very busy morning. I'm Heather Childers. It is half past the top of the hour. Prepare for the worst. Urgent warnings as monster Hurricane Matthew churns toward the East Coast. Millions now preparing for what could be the worst hurricane to slam Florida in more than a decade.
Right now, it is a Category 3 storm, packing winds well over 100 miles per hour and battering the Bahamas.
States of emergency now in effect in Florida, Georgia, and both Carolinas. Millions of Americans now forced to choose to leave their homes or hunker down and weather the storm.
The hurricane is expected to reach Florida late tonight or early tomorrow, and now the unbelievable possibility that Matthew could spin around and hit the U.S. twice.
We have live Fox News team coverage for you this morning. Brian Yennis live in Florida, where millions are bracing for a direct hit.
But we do begin with Janice Dean tracking the new path in the Weather Center. Janice, good morning. What is the latest?
Good morning. Well, we received the 5 a.m. path, and Matthew is going to be a major hurricane as it scrapes the east coast of Florida. The National Weather Service saying in some cases unprecedented damage across the east coast is expected with Matthew. If you are told to evacuate, you need to do so. Listen to your local officials. Again, a strengthening storm. You can see the last few frames here. We've got an eye popping out. That is a sign that this storm is strengthening, and there are indications we could be up to 140 mile per hour sustained winds as this approaches the east coast of Florida. Northwest at 12 miles per hour, and we could see unprecedented, extensive damage across the beautiful beaches of the Bahamas. Future radar, this is Thursday, 10 p.m., coming very close to West Palm Beach. There's the eye wall right there. Category 3, Category 4 storm. Does it make landfall? At this point, it doesn't matter. We are talking about a major hurricane that is going to scrape all up and down the east coast of Florida. 10 million people are under a hurricane warning. Then to Daytona Beach on Friday overnight, and we are then going to be dealing with Georgia and the Carolinas. This could be your problem next. So listen to your local officials, okay? This is a serious situation. Hurricane warnings again, 10 million people, upwards of 10 million people all along the Space Coast. And again, this is going to be a day's event, not just today, but into the weekend. As mentioned, we're going to be dealing with this and perhaps even a significant move towards the coast again on the weekend. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The real story is Florida over the next couple of days. The water temperatures are very warm. This is the Gulf Stream. So that's why we think as this storm makes its approach to the east coast, look at the temperatures here, close to 90 degrees. So that's why we think rapid intensification could be potentially a problem for this coast. So there's the forecast path. Let's break it down for you real quick. This is the closest pass that it makes to Port St. Lucie, 145 mile per hour sustained winds overnight tonight, and then it hugs the coastline. Again, whether it makes landfall or not is not an issue. We're still going to feel the effects of storm surge, upwards of maybe a foot of rainfall, hurricane force winds for at least a period of 24 hours, and then we're going to have to watch this for Georgia and the Carolinas. And then what happens next? We'll have to monitor it. Unprecedented. Yeah. Really, this could be an unprecedented storm for them. Please listen to your local officials. Rick Scott is doing an amazing job on Twitter and letting everyone know. So that's the good thing. Neighbors helping neighbors. This is an important time for you.
They had all lanes of Interstate 26 headed one direction out.
Yeah. They know what to do in Florida, but it's been 10 years, ladies, that we've had a major hurricane in this area.
Janice Dean, Live for us this morning. Janice, thank you.
Thank you, Janice. We're going to take you to Florida now. That is bracing for the brunt of it as Hurricane Matthew's track swings closer and closer to the coast. Brian Yennis is standing by for us.
He's live in Sebastian Inlet, where people are preparing for the worst today. Brian, what is the latest where you are?
Good morning. Well, you know, right now here in Sebastian, we are under a mandatory evacuation beginning at 8 a.m. along the barrier islands where we are standing here in front of the ocean. Again, this is going to be perhaps the largest evacuation in Florida's history. Some 1.5 million Floridians from the Palm Beaches all the way up through Jacksonville under mandatory evacuations in low-lying areas, mobile homes, and barrier islands. They are expecting a big storm surge, which is usually the biggest threat when it comes to hurricanes, and those Category 4 winds that are just unprecedented. We have not felt this in more than a decade, as we've been talking about. Again, people have been preparing lines for gas all week, especially the last 2 days, and also Florida Power and Light says they are expecting some 1.2 million people to be without power during the height of this storm. So people are making sure that they have gas. These gas stations are also supplied with generators. One of the big problems with these storms sometimes isn't necessarily that you can't get the gas is there, but a lot of these gas stations didn't have the generators to pump the gas in. Well, they'll be prepared for this big storm. Governor Rick Scott says Florida should be prepared for a direct hit from a major Category 4 storm tonight going into overnight. Listen to what he had to say.
We have less than 24 hours left to prepare, evacuate, and shelter. Having a plan in place could mean the difference between life and death.
The big issue again, the last time we felt a hurricane like this in this area was Hurricane Wilma. That's a decade. There are new people that are living in Florida that have never experienced a hurricane like this. They are making sure that everyone is prepared for what could be a catastrophic and devastating storm. Abby, Heather.
All right, Brian, live for us in Florida there on the beach. It was so important for people to listen to the officials.
Listen to the experts. Eventually, you won't be able to get out, so go now.
Good point.
Thank you, Brian. Well, some critics are accusing the Obama administration of doing anything to make sure Hillary Clinton gets into the White House and saying that this proves it, dropping charges against a man who allegedly armed our enemy. The DOJ suddenly clearing American arms dealer Mark Turi, who was accused of selling weapons to Libyan rebels. Turi says that the case was dropped over fears that it would expose a damaging link between Clinton and the deadly Benghazi attack.
An alarming threat to freedom of speech, a European human rights group demanding that the British press not report when terrorists are Muslims. It blames an increase in hate crimes on newspapers and TV. The group wants the UK to pass stricter laws against the press and make journalists go through more training. The UK has no plans to take up that idea.
How about a good story? An extraordinary one of hope for an American hero. U.S. Marine John Peck starting a new chapter in his life after successfully undergoing a double arm transplant.
Unbelievable. Peck lost his arms and legs after stepping on an explosive device in Afghanistan. That was 6 years ago.
But thanks to the doctors at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, Peck says that he can once again hold his fiance's hand. He also says that he is closer to his dream of becoming a chef.
Would I ever imagine being here? No. I mean, I still to this day, we're telling people about the arm transplant, and they're like, wait, they can do that?
At least now I have a fighting chance at pursuing my dream.
What an amazing story. So Peck extended a heartfelt thanks to the donor's family, saying the gift will not be wasted.
No, let us know where you end up being a chef and we will come.
We'll come try it out.
Yes, order some meals.
I love that.
The time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. You know what they say, you got to fake it to make it, right?
Boy, did you see the look she gave me?
Hillary Clinton shocked, but guess what? Yep, she already knew the question.
No.
Yes.
And traveling for Thanksgiving, why you need to book your flight now. Donald Trump is hot on the trail bound for the battleground state of New Hampshire.
The GOP nominee taking a victory lap, praising his running mate for his debate performance and slamming Hillary Clinton, when you know, along the way.
Doug McGilway is live for us in Washington, D.C. with the very latest. Doug, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Abby. Morning, Heather. Both presidential candidates are pulling out some new secret weapons in advance of Sunday night's second presidential debate. The Clinton campaign has announced that Al Gore will be putting aside some old animosities and will campaign for Hillary in the home stretch. And Donald Trump is sure to unleash a new line of attack. Bill Clinton's own words in which he skewered Obamacare.
Bill Clinton torched President Obama's signature legislation. Hillary Clinton called Obamacare one of the greatest accomplishments of President Obama. Bill had a different view. He said, it's just a crazy system.
Trump supporters and, of course, his aides are hoping that he learned a little bit from Mike Pence's performance Tuesday night in the VP debate, which is widely seen as Pence coming out as the winner by calmly deflecting Tim Kaine's rapid-fire interruptions and his attacks.
I think Donald Trump won the debate. I think Donald Trump's vision to make America great again won the debate. I really think that vision for a stronger America at home and abroad, if we did any good last night, it was that we were able to communicate that vision and the clear choice the American people face.
Hillary Clinton, no surprise, spun the debate as a Tim Kaine victory. Hillary has stepped off the trail and returned to Washington, to her home here, to study briefing books and prep for Sunday's debate. Trump aides hope that a little bit of Pence's humility and preparation rubs off on their candidate. Heather and Abby, back to you.
And Al Gore, not a bad choice, because he'll be able to attract the millennials since he invented the internet, right?
Well, that's right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Well, small business owners, they say that Donald Trump has their vote, and it's all because of Obamacare. A new poll showing 60% of those business owners on the Trump train, the other 40% planning to vote for Hillary Clinton. They say they're sick of Obamacare's constant policy changes, minimum wage increases, and costly regulations. Trump has promised to repeal and replace the president's namesake health care plan. Clinton promises to keep it.
All right, well, Hillary Clinton putting on quite a show for Steve Harvey, the Democratic nominee, acting shocked and surprised by questions that her own campaign came up with.
Boy, did you see the look she gave me?
So the Washington Free Beacon publishing a memo to Clinton from her communications aides outlining every detail of that interview. Where's the authenticity today, huh?
Well, we have someone that's always authentic. And a bold move by America's biggest mall for holiday shopping is what she's talking about.
Yeah, Cheryl Kosone from our sister network, Fox Business, is here to explain what is going on, Cheryl.
Yeah, the largest mall in America is now going to close for Thanksgiving Day. Remember now, over the last 5 years, many malls and retailers have kind of gotten on this bandwagon. They want to get more competitive and they want to open on Thanksgiving Day. Well, Mall of America is saying to their thousands of employees, stay home, be with your family. Now, they've got more than 500 tenants from Macy's to H&M in that mall. If the tenants want to open up that day, they are welcome to, but the mall is saying that they are going to be closed. And we're seeing a trend now with these stores, and maybe it's a little bit of a PR stunt, but if you look at somebody like Staples realized by going against the grain and saying that we're not going to open on Thanksgiving Day, they got a lot of attention. They got us talking about it, right? 10 years now for closings at BJ's as well. BJ's Wholesale Club saying, we've been closing for 10 years on Thanksgiving Day. We care about our employees. So I think it's kind of interesting that we're seeing a little bit of a reverse trend with the retailers.
Yeah, exactly. But forget Thanksgiving. Apparently, we already need to start thinking about Christmas and booking your flights.
This is the week that if you're going to be flying for Christmas, buy the ticket this week, because a new study coming out by Hopper, very interesting, showing that about 80 days out before the holiday, that's when the flights can be at their cheapest. Then they're going to start going up. Now, right now, domestic flights round trip are about $304 for those Christmas trips. But every day from now, it's going to go up about $1.50. That could be about $120 over the next 80 days. And really quick, you definitely want to look at hotels, but one word of advice I thought was interesting, wait until the second half of November to book a hotel if you're doing one of those family holiday trips for Christmas, because the hotel deals come a little bit later. The airfare deals, those are now.
It just takes so much planning, though.
It does.
Thank you.
We've got Cheryl.
Yes, thank you, Cheryl.
Now we want to check in with Steve Ducey to see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. And a story, Steve, that we've been following so closely this morning is Hurricane Matthew and the debate now just 3 days away.
That's right. And actually, there is some suggestion that they're wondering, the political experts are, is it a good idea to put political ads for a presidential candidate on the Weather Channel? Keep in mind, there could be destruction, there could be loss of life. Is that a good idea? We're going to tell you all about that. Plus, Mike Pence, who Donald Trump yesterday revealed was his first hire, is going to be joining us live, and we would invite you, the viewing audience, to submit questions for Mr. Pence. He's going to be on today at 7:30. Email us, friends@foxnews.com. You can tweet us or Facebook us at Well.
All right. You're right. The first big decision that he made was Mike Pence.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
All right. See you soon, Steve.
You bet.
People remembering how Hurricane Sandy impacted the election.
Politics.
Specifically.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back. Stay with us. Look at that. We are back with a Fox News alert. The East Coast bracing for impact.
Right now, Hurricane Matthew is gaining strength as it blasts through the Bahamas, and it is expected to hit the U.S. in just a matter of hours.
Yeah, let's get right to WOFL reporter Jackie Orozco. She is live in Brevard County, Florida, with the latest. Jackie?
Yeah, good morning to you. I'm standing in front of one of many hospitals here in Brevard County where they've already done mandatory evacuations because this hospital staff says that they are not equipped to withstand a Category 4 hurricane. So for the safety of the patients, that's why they started evacuations. Also in Brevard County, throughout the county, there are mandatory evacuations, but some residents are choosing to stay in their homes. So they're boarding up their homes. We've seen plenty of storm shutters throughout the windows and doors, people gathering sandbags and plenty of supplies. Just checking out local stores just yesterday, a lot of the stores like Home Depot and other stores ran out of generators. So long lines, quite hectic the last few days, and a lot of gas stations are actually out of gas, even though Governor Rick Scott says that there's plenty of gas for everyone here. But what we've been seeing is that some gas stations had to close temporarily, waiting for it to the tankers to come in and refuel as well. So again, a lot of mandatory evacuations. Schools are closed today and tomorrow. We've been seeing a little bit of rain today, nothing to do with the hurricane. We're expected to see some hurricane strength and all that later on today, this afternoon. But I have to tell you, there's some mixed emotions from some residents. Some are worried, while others saying that they're going to just hunker down at their home and stay put. Back to you.
You always have those folks that do that.
Yeah, better safe than sorry, though. Jackie Roscoe live for us this morning. Jackie, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. And the time now is about 6 minutes until the top of the hour. Sticker Shock, the hospital that just billed some new parents $40 to hold their new baby.
What? And how would you feel about getting weighed before your next flight? The new passenger policy that is sparking some outrage this morning. 2 minutes now for the top of the hour. Before we leave the house, here is what is happening today. Hurricane Matthew on a direct path toward the United States, forcing one of the largest mass evacuations in American history. Millions along the East Coast now ordered to leave their homes. The deadly storm expected to slam Florida late tonight or early tomorrow morning. One of Samsung's replacement Galaxy 7 phones just exploded on a plane. The company now trying to determine if it needs to issue another worldwide recall. And Donald Trump bound for the battleground state of New Hampshire today, while Hillary Clinton stays behind closed doors preparing for the second debate. So let's keep talking about the race for the White House. Al Gore now set to hit the campaign trail for Clinton. Is this really a good move? Let us know. Tell us what you think on our Facebook page with the hashtag Keep Talking.
Now it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. An 11-year-old pug from Meridian, Idaho, now being honored as a hometown hero for saving his family's life. Jackson alerted his owners to a potentially dangerous electrical fire in the middle of the night. Aww. And bad, a new airline policy sparking outrage. Hawaiian Airlines under fire for weighing passengers before boarding a flight. The airline says that it's a safety issue and they need to evenly distribute weight, but the U.S. Transportation Department said it's investigating those complaints. And the ugly, talk about sticker shock. A Utah hospital charging a new dad for making skin-to-skin contact with his baby. The price tag, $39.99. The hospital saying that the fee was actually for having an additional nurse in the room.
My home state of Utah. I gotta figure out what happened there.
Find out. Give him a call.
All right, Fox and Friends starts right now.
Right to a Fox News alert. Hurricane Matthew strengthening overnight as millions of Americans prepare for what could be the most devastating hurricane to hit the East Coast in more than a decade.
The super powerful hurricane roaring through the Bahamas right now, pounding the islands with winds well over 100 miles an hour and growing.
Yep, the storm expected to reach Florida late tonight or early tomorrow. Schools closed, flights canceled, and millions now forced to decide whether to hunker down or evacuate just to escape the deadly storm.
And now the unbelievable possibility that Matthew could hit the U.S. twice.
Yeah, that's just crazy. We have Fox team coverage. Brian Yennis is live in Sebastian Inlet, Florida, where the waves are already churning there. But we start with Janice Dean tracking new warnings. Janice, I understand it sounds like the feeder bands are starting in South Florida at this hour, and we were hoping the storm wouldn't be as strong, but actually it's getting stronger.
Yeah, and the National Weather Service out of Melbourne, Florida, have issued a statement with dire warnings saying that they could see unprecedented damage from Hurricane Matthew along the East Coast. Category 4 storm, we think it's going to be strengthening as it potentially makes a landfall, but whether or not it makes a landfall is not the issue. We're going to be dealing with a Category 3 or Category 4 major hurricane all up the East Coast for a period of 24 to 36 hours. And this is a strengthening storm. You see that eye, that small eye there? So overnight, we have seen the winds get stronger, 125 mile per hour sustained winds moving northwest at 12 miles per hour. We're going to start to see those conditions go downhill across South Florida this morning. And then the closest approach to the eye wall, which is the strongest core of winds, is going to make its approach to West Palm Beach Thursday tonight at around 10 p.m. And then an all-night event overnight into Friday and into Saturday. Then it's a Georgia, then it's the Carolinas problem. But this is a huge deal. They could see, again, Category 4 major hurricane, bringing the worst of the storm surge, the worst of the rain, the worst of the core of winds all up and down the Space Coast. And again, 10 million people under hurricane warnings. If you have not evacuated, your time is running out. This is not a drill. This is a life or death situation. Your forecast path, again, this is 5 a.m., the latest. Look at that. Category 4 storm kissing the coast with 145-mile-per-hour winds. Overnight tonight, it's going to continue into Saturday, and then we'll have to watch this as there is the potential for it to loop back into the southeast. But first things first, this is a serious, potentially life-threatening situation for the east coast of Florida. You need to listen to your local officials.
Hey, Janice, do you think it's going to hit all at the same time, or is it going to move up the coast? Will this move in like a wave, or will it just go up north?
It's just going to be an ongoing beast up the coast, and pretty slow moving as well, which is going to add to the problems of the east coast of Florida. So, I mean, this is a storm they're going to be talking about for a very long time.
How does it affect the folks in the Gulf area of Florida? They'll just get a lot of rain?
That's a very good question, because the storm is strong enough that we have tropical storm warnings inland, even to the west coast of Florida. So they potentially could see the rainfall, the winds, not like the east coast, of course, but that just shows you how strong and how big this storm is, that it is going to affect the Gulf Coast of Florida as well.
All right. Janice, get back to your weather alerts.
Keeping you up to date all morning.
Of course, you've done a great job so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. We're going to be talking to her a lot during the show today, because I know you all are concerned about that. We're now going to turn to Brian Yenis, who is live at Sebastian Inlet down in Florida, where people are preparing for the worst. Brian?
Good morning, Ainsley. Well, just like Janice said, in terms of the trajectory of this storm, a major Category 4 hurricane, when it's supposed to hit tonight into tomorrow, it's going up along the east coast of Florida, which means we are going to see perhaps the biggest evacuation in the history of the state of Florida. Some 1.5 million people being urged to evacuate. Those living in low-lying areas, the barrier islands, and in mobile homes being urged to leave now before this major hurricane hits. And right now, because we're expecting the conditions to deteriorate throughout the day, people are really boarding up, and they're trying to get everything together, putting up their last-minute shutters, getting bread and water if there's any left, filling up their cars with gas. Florida Power and Light expects some 1.2 million people to lose power, and because we're talking about the entire east coast of Florida, they are positioning themselves throughout the state. This isn't just one part. We're talking from the Palm Beaches all the way up to Jacksonville with Category 4 and 3 intensity along the coast. So that's what we're talking about here. In terms of where I'm at, I'm here in Sebastian. We are in between Orlando and West Palm Beach. The conditions here are expected to deteriorate tonight into overnight. And again, people on this beach and along the Barrier Island are getting a mandatory evacuation in place at 8 a.m. You need to leave because emergency vehicles will not be coming once the conditions become tropical storm strength. Guys?
All right, down there in Sebastian Inlet, Brian Yenis, we thank you very much. I'm glad that he said at the end, you know, the cops can't come to help you.
Right.
Because they made it very clear as they evacuated some of the barrier islands last night in Palm Beach County, they said, okay, we can't come after you after the winds get up to 50 miles per hour, which is going to be pretty shortly. So they made it mandatory evacuation. They've locked down all the bridges, and if you're in a boat, you know, you had to get it out of the area between the drawbridges before 8 o'clock last night.
There was a mandatory evacuation in Charleston, South Carolina as well. My sister's a school teacher. They shut down the schools. Good. Took her 7 hours to get home to my parents, where my parents live, which is about an hour and 45 minutes away. But they had to fill up the gas tanks. Yeah. She said the lines were so long, she had to wait, I think it was like an hour and a half to get gas.
Well, she's lucky she got gas.
Well, what happened in her, we had a major hurricane in South Carolina, and folks were trying to evacuate, and people were running out of gas on the interstate because traffic was backed up.
Terrible.
That was a big deal for politics, too. The governor took a lot of heat for that.
And let's talk about politics for a second, and what it means is people begin to evacuate, because there's a lot of, like the President of the United States was due to go to Florida to help out Hillary Clinton as she started to study this week. And they were fanning out all through, as well as Donald Trump had some things scheduled to do in Florida. Obviously not going to be doing that as it goes right up the Carolinas. The question is, if you want to get maximum viewers, if you want to be able to take your ad dollars and put them on any
any channel? Do you put it in the World Series where people are starting to focus? Do you maybe focus on Sunday or Monday Night Football? Do you look at, do you maybe put it on the Fox News channel or another channel? Or do you put it onto the Weather Channel?
Well, see, the reason we're bringing this up is, as Janice just said, there's a potential for the loss of life and extensive damage. So it seems extraordinary, and there's an item in Politico this morning talking about it's a risky proposition, but the Hillary Clinton campaign has bought $63,000 worth of ads to run over the next 5 days on the Weather Channel. Keep in mind, this what has been a killer storm so far will probably impact 2 swing states, North Carolina and Florida, and it's dominating the conversation in the run-up to the second debate in St. Louis.
Viewership goes up on this channel, obviously, during a time of crisis when there's a hurricane about to hit. Some people are saying, yeah, it's smart because a lot of people are going to be watching. Other people saying not so much, including, believe it or not, Christy Campbell, who is Jeb Bush's former campaign manager. Right. She said this is a colossally huge and unforced error by the Clinton camp. Insensitive, and it will, I mean, can I say that? I don't like to say that word. It's going to tick off Floridians.
Well, it could be, too, because you don't want it associated, at the very least, you don't want your ad associated with something so negative. So if you think of the storm in your mind and think of, well, Hillary Clinton reminds me of that time when I had to watch 24 hours worth of the Weather Channel to find out if my loved ones or my home was going to be smashed. That's a negative. That's a bad move. The other thing is it flat out insensitive? Is it incentive trying to capitalize on a storm that could be so devastating?
Well, and also it depends on how the administration handles this. If they don't declare a disaster, if they don't like, folks in Florida don't like the way the administration is handling it, it can come back to backfire because you can see one of those ads and it's reminding you, wait a minute, where are they for us right now?
Well, particularly if the ad that the Clinton people place is a negative ad, and you know you're looking to see if your house is going to blow.
You're like, really?
And there's still run negative ads. What were they? I didn't see that at all.
Yeah. So to run a negative ad, that would be bad. However, they are suggesting put out a positive message, and in fact, Donald Trump just tweeted in the last hour or two, praying for everyone in Florida, hoping the hurricane dissipates, but in any event, please be careful.
So let's talk about what Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were doing yesterday. For the most part, Donald Trump was extremely happy with the guy that's going to be a guest on our show a little bit later, and that's Vice Presidential nominee Governor Mike Pence. He was out on the stump, and he says, hey, listen, my guy did great, and didn't I make a great first choice? My first major choice was picking a running mate. How did I do?
So, it was great.
Yeah.
Speaking in Reno, Nevada.
Yeah, let's listen, because he also mocked Bill Clinton, mocked Obamacare through the eyes of Bill Clinton.
Hillary Clinton called Obamacare one of the greatest accomplishments of President Obama, of the Democratic Party, and of our country itself, right? But Bill had a different view. He said, it's just a crazy system. And that's the way he said it. It's the craziest thing in the whole world. Clinton added, it doesn't make any sense. The insurance model just doesn't work. So, you know, they're always telling me, oh, if you say something, just apologize. Just apologize. I think that President Obama should apologize for Obamacare.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, probably not.
You know, Bill Clinton and Hillary, this happens all the time. I feel like he's saying one thing, she's saying another. They really need to get on the same page. They need to talk.
2 things have happened. Number one, the FBI investigation has been a boon for the Trump camp, and the collapse of Obamacare has been a boon for the Trump camp. That is not any ad or strategy. That's reality. Right. We just watch every day as it craters, and then you make your own conclusion.
All right, so a busy day in the news regarding the weather and politics, and there's more, and Heather's got that right now.
Yeah. Good morning to all of you. Ainsley, welcome back.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thanks.
Breaking news right now, and actually just getting in some new information on a horrific story coming out of the West Coast. A decorated sheriff's deputy murdered in cold blood. 53-year-old Stephen Owen was shot in the face while he responded to a burglary near Los Angeles. That gunman identified as a parolee and then tried to get away in Owen's police car. He then ran into a nearby home where 2 teenagers were inside. One of those teenagers able to send a text message to authorities. After a 2-hour standoff, he was finally arrested. Sergeant Owen, a 29-year veteran of the department, leaves behind a wife, 2 sons, and his stepdaughter. We are thinking of that officer's family today and praying for them. A chilling warning coming out from terrorists. ISIS is now calling on jihadis around the globe to carry out knife massacres in our own backyards. A newly released propaganda magazine provides a manual for murder in several different languages. It urges jihadis to attack in alleys, alongside beaches, and inside quiet neighborhoods. The terrorists even praise that Minnesota mall slasher, assuring others that they don't need combat experience to terrorize people. Another case of stolen American secrets to tell you about. The FBI arresting a potential Edward Snowden copycat. Heavily armed agents storming Harold Martin's home. That raid allegedly turning up top secret U.S. codes stashed on his personal hard drives. Those are used by the NSA to hack government servers belonging to Iran, Russia, North Korea, and China. Martin worked at the same security firm as Edward Snowden, by the way. Right now, the FBI has no evidence that Martin gave that information to a third party. And those are your headlines. I'll see you back here real soon. A lot going on today.
He just had secret stuff on computers, like some people we've heard of recently who had computers destroyed. All right, Heather, thank you very much.
Heather.
All right, remember how the establishment worried that Donald Trump would be toxic for the congressional races with the Republicans? Turns out that's not true, and our next guest says the Democrats are the ones with the double standard.
And remember the White House former NAACP leader who thinks she was black? Well, she's back in the headlines.
Well, are the Republicans going to lose control of the House? Nancy Pelosi thinks it's going to happen, maybe.
You make your own ways. You know what I mean? And that's what we're doing. We have the candidates. We have the enthusiasm. I feel very confident that the makings of a wave are there.
Makings of a wave. Well, despite early concern about Donald Trump being perhaps toxic for down-ticket races on the Republican side, our guest says, not so fast, Mrs. Pelosi. Chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee, Congressman Greg Walden, joins us live right now.
Good morning.
To you.
It's good to be with you.
Let's start. Going back, I don't know, 6 months or so ago, people were saying, if Donald Trump is the nominee, he's going to be toxic to the Republican brand, and congressmen and senators are going to lose their jobs because people are going to go to the polls and vote for anybody but Trump and his people.
See, I think voters are a lot smarter than that. They can differentiate between a candidate for the House or the Senate and whoever's running for president. The data shows that, too. If you ask voters, is a Republican candidate like Donald Trump, 20% will say yes. If you ask, is the Democrat like Hillary Clinton, 65% will say yes, because Donald Trump is his own brand. People get that. They understand that our races are run locally, and I'd say we're in really good shape right now.
So what happened exactly? Because for a while it was dire. You'd go online and you'd read stuff, and it's like, this is the worst thing to happen to the Republican Party, and now not so much.
A couple of things. They had a lot of recruitment failures, so they don't have good candidates in the right places.
You're talking about Democrats?
Democrats. Second, we do have really good members that are running really good races. We had the biggest majority since 1928 coming out of the last cycle. So we've got 26 members that won in districts Barack Obama won in. They're now running for re-election, and in some of the closest races, the Democrats aren't even participating.
Do you have any idea what Nancy Pelosi is talking about when she says we can see a wave?
Yeah, well, here's the deal. She said that in 2010, on the eve of the 2010 election. She said we're going to hold the majority, and they lost, I think, 53 seats and the majority in one of the biggest waves. They have trouble predicting waves, and I don't know. We don't see it. We certainly see something much different, which is a competitive environment in a few seats, not the 60, 70, or 80 seats they said would be in play after the Republican convention. It's actually narrowing, and in some cases, like out in Sacramento, our candidate, Scott Jones, is now taking a 5-point lead over an incumbent, Ami Bera. So we're seeing some shifts actually our way in races.
So Trump not so toxic after all.
Correct.
All right. Congressman, thank you very much for coming to New York City.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, Senator Tim Kaine denying this comparison about Hillary Clinton's email investigation. Remember?
If your son or my son handled classified information the way Hillary Clinton did, they'd be court-martialed.
That is absolutely false, and you know that.
Absolutely
and you know
true.
that. hard to understand because the moderator talked through the whole thing, but our next guest says Kaine is wrong and her son is proof, and we will explain. And too fat to fly, the airline actually making you step on the scale before you board. Which one is it? Find out straight ahead.
Quick headlines now. One of Samsung's replacement Galaxy Note 7s just exploded on a packed plane. The company now trying to determine if it needs to issue another worldwide recall after a man says his powered down and then started to smoke, evacuating the entire Southwest flight. And a new airline policy sparking outrage for forcing passengers to be weighed in before they board. Hawaiian Airlines says it's a safety issue, and it helps crews evenly distribute the weight. The U.S. Transportation Department is investigating. Heading home for the holidays? You better buy your tickets right now. Experts say flights are the cheapest about 80 days before Christmas. Prices start going up every day starting next week. Meanwhile, here's Ainsley.
Thank you, Brian. Donald Trump's running mate, Mike Pence, is winning a lot of praise for this big moment during the vice presidential debate.
If your son or my son handled classified information the way Hillary Clinton did, they'd be court-martialed.
That is absolutely false, and you know
absolutely
that. And you know
true.
that, Governor.
It's absolutely true.
Because the FBI did an investigation.
Gentlemen.
And they concluded that there was
Senator?
no reasonable prosecutor who would take it further.
But U.S. Navy sailor Christian Saucier will soon be heading to prison for taking some photos in a classified area back in 2009. And now his mother wants to know why her son is being punished while Hillary Clinton used that bleach bit, destroyed evidence, but is allowed to walk free. Christian Saucier's mother, Kathleen, joins us now. Good morning, Kathleen. Thank you for being with us. I know this is an emotional week because your son will serve a year in prison starting next week. Our thoughts and our prayers are with your family, but tell us what your son went through. Tell us his story.
Sure. Thank you so much again for having me on. So in 2009, when my son was 22, he was stationed aboard the USS Alexandria, and he made, and I'm going to quote the judge in the sentencing, a dangerous mistake to take photos of inside the submarine. He's accepted responsibility for those 6 photos that he took that were in a classified area. Classified, I might want to mention, below the level of classification that Hillary Clinton's emails have been classified at. And so he's preparing now to go forward to serve a 1-year federal prison sentence, as well as 6 months home monitoring, and then 3 years federal probation.
Wow. So when you heard Mike Pence make that statement in the vice presidential debate, do you agree with him? Would his son and would Senator Kaine's son be court-martialed if they had done the same thing that Hillary Clinton did?
According to what the laws and the rules are, absolutely, they absolutely would. And I'm grateful that he had the courage to state that. I feel strongly that he was tried to be silenced by both Senator Kaine as well as the moderator, basically that asked him to go on to something else. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, if they had done the same thing that Secretary Clinton did, they would be going to prison or be court-martialed.
Well, your son got rid of his cell phone, and he said he did that. He was fearful. He panicked and threw it in the dumpster. Someone found it, recovered it, and that's how the pictures were recovered. Hillary Clinton used bleach bit to wipe her server clean, and she's not indicted. What was your reaction to that?
Well, first let me clarify. He did not get rid of his cell phone. The cell phone went missing, and it was later discovered in a dumpster.
How did it go missing?
He was cleaning out his house. He lost his cell phone. He got a new cell phone, so the cell phone went missing. So let's just clarify that.
Got it. Sorry.
That's okay. With regards to what Hillary Clinton, my thing that I'm here about today is the double standard. I don't believe that me speaking out at this point anymore is going to change what's going on for my son. My son, we're going forward as a family. We appreciate prayers and thoughts with us as we go forward this next year and and through his life with this sentence. But I feel strongly that there's a double standard. Hillary Clinton and her staff over and over and over have had evidence brought forward about that she's done things, whether it's the bleach bit, that her staff has done these things, whether she's done them herself. But she has transmitted documents that are classified documents, higher levels of classification, had higher levels of classified documents, on a server that was insecure in her home. So let me tell you, many people have said you're comparing apples to oranges. It's not the same thing. She was dismissed. The charges were dismissed or over whatever. But here's the thing. They both had documents that were secure or on an insecure device. They both, to my knowledge, didn't have intent. I know my son didn't have intent. Intent is not required for this crime, mishandling classified information. My son is sentenced for mishandling classified information for 6 photos in a classified area of the submarine. What he did was wrong. He has accepted responsibility for what he's done, and he's going forward. The double standard is we as Americans, as patriots of the United States of America, need to stand up against this double standard. Whether it's Hillary Clinton or other people in this administration, it needs to stop because our rights will be continued to be taken away. That's why I'm speaking out.
Kathleen, thank you so much. We wish your son all the best.
Thank you. God
Christian.
bless.
Everyone say a prayer for Christian this
Amen.
morning.
Thank you so
Start that
much.
sentence next week. Thank you. A Fox News alert. Hurricane Matthew just hours away from making a direct hit on the state of Florida. Millions are told to evacuate as the storm gains strength, and we are tracking the latest next. And President Bill Clinton tells us what he really thinks about Obamacare.
Well, they're out there busting it sometimes 60 hours a week, wind up with their premiums doubled and their coverage cut in half. It's the craziest thing in the world.
Judge Napolitano says he's right. The judge is going to weigh in next.